Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, November 17th. Governor Charlie Baker is our guest. Let's go on the record. The MBTA is still struggling to get on track while the governor looks for a light at the end of that tunnel. Will a tax hike be needed to ensure a lasting transportation fix?
Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker is the most popular governor in America. How does he do it?
Former Governor Deval Patrick looks to Washington for his next political chapter, but is a late presidential run a storyline voters will buy? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to OTR. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wu. And our guest this morning is the governor of the Commonwealth, Charlie Baker. He is a Republican. He's serving his second term of Beacon Hill. He previously served in the administrations of Governor Weld and Governor Cellucci. In the private sector, he served as the CEO of Harvard Vanguard Medical Associates. He is a Harvard graduate, holds an MBA from Northwestern. It's great to have you with us, sir, as always. Thanks for your time.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for being here. So another winter is upon us, maybe a little earlier this year than most, and everyone, of course, focuses on the MBTA and what's going to happen during the course of the next few months. Just in the recent weeks, doors again are seen open on moving trains, bus drivers lost trying to shuttle passengers that are been detoured because of Orange Line repairs. The list sort of goes on at that point. So what can you tell passengers about what to expect as the temperatures drop?
Well, we typically put together a pretty comprehensive winter plan with the folks at the T and at DOT. It's both on the roads and the bridges as well as on the public transportation system. And in the last several winters, we've actually done, I think the T's done quite well in making sure they get people where they need to go. There are a number of things they do all the way through the fall to prepare for this, which they're pursuing now. But in addition to that, we spent over $100 million basically buying third rail to replace all the exposed third rail that existed on the Orange Line and the Red Line, tons of plows and bolt-ons that you can put on the front of trains, as well as a ton of standalone snow removal equipment. And they also do a ton of work around tree removal and branch removal and all the rest. And I think people will have a winter where the T will be there when it needs to be.
But you must panic a little bit when you know there's a big snowstorm coming in.
I wouldn't call it panic. I think it's more about preparation and anticipation. I mean, there's a lot of work that people put into this now that wasn't being put in before, and I believe that a lot of that pre-work is fundamental to the success of the T during the winter. People didn't used to do inspections on that third rail to determine if, in fact, all the heating signals worked on it.
They didn't do inspections on it.
Correct. People didn't used to do inspections on the switches, on the commuter rail system, which was a big problem with respect to whether or not they were going to work. They didn't used to have gas-fired switches, which you need to have when the weather gets cold. They need to be able to melt the snow that gets inside those switches, so when you have to switch them, when the trains are moving, you're in a position to do it. There's a lot of work that's been done on it.
Let's talk about your $19 billion transportation bond bill, but Democratic leaders say it's a revenue stream. Fair, and that is specifically a gas tax. Is it needed to be financially responsible? And they could have the votes to override any veto from you. Is this a battle that you he smiles.
You're kind of teeing that up in kind of an interesting way, like it's over before the conversation
Okay, well,
begins.
all right.
I happen to think we're still having a conversation about this.
But you know how the Democrats feel about this, and they have the votes. They even claim that they could override a veto.
Well, first of all, we currently have the largest capital investment program in the MBTA's history going on, and the first time the T ever spent $1 billion on its capital budget was last year. Second time is going to be this year, and by next year they'll probably be spending $1.5 billion on their way to implementing this $8 billion program. That $19 billion bond bill, I mean, what I would really like to see happen is I'd like to see the legislature pass that. There's a ton of resources available in there for the T. There's resources in there for roads and bridges. There's resources in there for choke points and other congestion issues that can be dealt with, and that's funded. So if the legislature wants to talk about something else, I'm happy to have that conversation. But the bottom line here is we have an $8 billion program for the T that's funded. We have a $19 billion capital bond bill for transportation overall that's funded. Let's get on with it. I can't do anything with the transportation bill until it actually gets passed.
I think they're worried about the fact of eating up too much of the bond money that will not be enough for other things like education and that type of thing. What do you say to them about that?
Well, remember, that $19 billion bond bill has our capital spending in it, but it also has federal money in it. It's also got money in there associated with borrowings that the T does on a pretty regular basis and that we do through our own borrowing program. Remember, we're the first administration in over 20 years to create both a construction plan and a financing plan for South Coast Rail, which was a big issue for the South Coast part of the Commonwealth with respect to commuter rail. But my view on this is that I believe that the next 5 years there is more funding available to support transportation in Massachusetts than outside of the Big Dig you're ever going to find available before. And it's all programmed and accounted for. And we should get on with it.
The next item I would like to talk about is the new state police colonel. Your fourth, do I have the number right, since you took office?
Colonel Albin was, we inherited Colonel Albin, yes. Colonel McEwen was the first one we appointed. We appointed Colonel Gilpin, and
now
Colonel Mason in
so,
5 years.
So what gives you the confidence that he can clean up an agency that's been mired in scandal for years?
Well, first of all, I had several conversations with him about this after it was recommended by Secretary Tom Turco that I talked to him, and he, first of all, he acknowledges that there were issues and there are problems and that there are things that still need to be fixed. You know, he was part of the group that did the investigations that led to the referral of 46 troopers in Troop E to the U.S. Attorney's Office and to the Attorney General. He was also part of the group that shut down Troop E, which is where a vast majority of the really bad acting that was going on at the state police was taking place. But he was the first guy who said to me, we need to think differently about the way we train cadets. And he has a lot of thoughts about changing the way the academy works, getting a little bit away from the paramilitary way it's been done before, getting a lot smarter about de-escalation, getting a lot smarter about empathy, getting a lot smarter about collaborative efforts and working with local law enforcement and community groups. I mean, a really different way of thinking about training the next generation of state police. He also talked a lot about wanting to dramatically enhance their diversity. He has a bunch of ideas about that. And he also brought, I think, a really introspective approach to some of the issues and the problems that they've had. And based on the interviews that I had with him, and also the conversations I had with other people who know him, they think he's a guy who can follow through.
Do you think you want to change the way that you can appoint the head, which of course doesn't affect your recent appointment?
Correct.
But if you could appoint someone from outside of the system as opposed to someone from within the ranks, do you think it would be better, it would be easier to run the agency, or to change the agency, I should say?
I think this ultimately comes down to the person and whether their experience is inside or outside. I think that's less relevant than whether or not, A, they have a vision and a plan with respect to what they want to do, and just as importantly, they have some sense about how they're actually going to follow through and execute on it. And the Colonel did a really nice job of laying out both his plan and also the how part with respect to how he wants to get it done.
So why do you want to change the law?
I think it's always better to have more choices and more options than less. And I'll say this, there are a lot of communities in Massachusetts that used to have to select their police chief from within the ranks of their existing department, who managed to get home rule petitions and other reforms passed at the local level. And I talk to those mayors all the time about all kinds of things. And a bunch of them have said to me, it just gives you a better pool, and it also gives you a better sense about what else might be available out there. And that is a good thing to know when you're making a decision like this. Even if you go inside, you know more about what kind of the talent pool and what the best practices look like generally in the market. I think that's a good thing.
Here's a good thing, too. It's the OTR pop quiz.
Yeah, okay.
This is a fun one.
It's the first time you've wiped your brow all morning. That's all I'm just saying. All right, pop quiz. Like you, the governors of, I can't show you that. Like you, the governors of Rhode Island and Connecticut, Gina Raimondo and Ned Lamont, are graduates of Harvard. New Hampshire Governor Chris, you didn't, well, so there you go. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu also got a degree here in Greater Boston, but do you know where it was? Was it at BU? Was it at Northeastern? Or was it at MIT?
Well, you know, I know that his brother and his father both graduated from MIT, so you're kind of putting me in a tough spot here. I'm going to give Chris the same shot and suggest MIT for him as well.
You nailed it. Graduated from MIT in '98 with a degree in civil engineering, civil environmental engineering to be exact. Originally, Massachusetts governors were elected to annual terms. In 1918, it became a 2-year term. In what year did it change to 4 years? Was it 62, 64, or 66?
I think it was 64.
It was 66, and John Volpe was the first Massachusetts governor elected to it.
You know, if you'd asked me who the first governor was that got
Elected
elected,
to
I
it.
would have known
I
the
nailed
answer
it.
to that
See?
one.
Very
Which is
good.
why I picked 60.
There you go.
No, it's 66.
I think he was governor from 64 to 66 and then got elected in 66.
That's
and
right.
left.
The first time he
That's
was elected
right.
the two-year
That's
term,
right.
and then
Yeah,
he got elected.
okay.
All right,
That's
we'll sort it out in the commercial. We'll be back.
I won't even get half a point for that one.